Aloha, and welcome back to the second episode of Talk Story with House Majority. My name is Della Albalati, and I serve as the Majority Leader of the 31st Legislature of the State of Hawaii. Quick plug, if you are watching this via Olelo Community Media's Facebook page, be sure to place your questions on the live stream. If our feedback loops are working properly, we may get to a couple of viewer questions later on in this episode. Since our last show, we've reached one of the first major deadlines of the session, bill introduction. This session, the House of Representatives has formally introduced 1,397 bills, and hearings for these bills have already begun. 538 of these bills have received triple referrals, meaning they have to be heard by 3 committees. 624 bills have double referrals, 235 have single referrals, and 91 bills have joint referrals, meaning they have to be heard jointly by 2 committees at one point before they pass out of the House. So this week, we also saw Speaker Saiki and myself make our post-opening day remarks. Speaker Saiki's announcement about forming a Mauna Kea working group was certainly a hot topic from his speech, but his speech also outlined the themes and priorities the House will be collectively addressing and be focused on as we make our way through another pandemic legislative session. These priorities include addressing our public health needs, stabilizing the budget, and ensuring Hawaii's economic recovery. Our guest today will touch on all of these priorities and hot topics. Joining me will be President David Lassner, President of the University of Hawaii System, where we'll get the inside scoop on UH's priorities for 2021, including plans for the UH football field. My colleague, Representative Gregg Takayama, new chair of the House's newly comprised Higher Education and Technology Committee, will be joining us for the latter part of the show. But before we go to our guest, I'd like to start today's show with a community spotlight with one of my freshman colleagues. For this episode, we kept it very close to the Capitol and to the UH Manoa campus, with visits to Kaimuki and St. Louis Heights with Representative Jackson Sayama, and a drive from Ala Moana through Waikiki with Representative Adrian Tam. For this first community spotlight, come join me with Representative Sayama as we do a quick tour of some local landmarks in his district.
So we are at the icon of the Kaimuki Small Business District. This is the old Queens Theater building. It was built in 1936, and back then it was really thriving. It was a center for community entertainment. But now obviously it's been kind of left alone for a few decades, and it's it looks kind of bad. It's become an eyesore for the community. But I'm really excited actually to be working with the Kaimuki Neighborhood Board, some community leaders, as well as Councilmember Waters' office, to start the long journey of having this place refurbished and eventually condemned so that it can be that kind of center once again. So we're still in brainstorming processes. So, some of the portions of the theater could be turned into an elevated parking space so we could, relieve some of the parking areas in the back. But I also hope to, completely renovate the theater itself so that it can be a place where, local musicians, the talents can showcase their artwork, their talents. I want to take in the community's visions for this theater and incorporate that into the project.
Thanks for sharing this with me. It really is part of the main streets of your district. So I hope you're successful in doing this and working with your community legislators. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
So, Representative Sayama, thank you for having me in here in your district. Tell me about Kaimuki Auto Repair and who we have here.
So today we're at Kaimuki Auto Repair, located at the entrance of Palolo Valley. Kaimuki Auto Repair really services the entire community. And, my family's been coming to Uncle Alan for a long time, and that's how we got to know each other. So we have Uncle Alan Nakamura here today. And so Uncle Alan, can you tell us a little bit about the shop? How long has it been here?
Well, this year, come June, makes 50 years that my dad started back in 1971. I had hair then. Right out of high school. So, we're probably just the new kids on the block. There were, I believe, 17 gas service stations.
Wow.
In this 1 mile strip. So, it's been a long time. But thank God that we survived and we're still here. So now my daughters are starting to take over.
So I was just wondering, Uncle Alan, how is this pandemic really been affecting, Kamiki Auto? How have you guys been doing?
Like when it first, back March, like everyone else, we got hit pretty hard. So for a year ending, we're down about, believe it or not, 40%, close to that. But I'm still thankful we're still operating and I could keep my guys employed during that time. And thanks to the stimulus package too. But it's been a tough year. But compared to restaurants and other places, we're still very thankful.
Yeah, and so like Uncle Alan, has been helping out the community even through this pandemic, and has actually been helping me, working on this legislation for catalytic converter thefts, not only in this area, but that are happening all around Oahu. So, we're looking forward to working with Uncle Alan on that to push that through the legislature this year. I really want to make it a priority for myself and the legislature that we ensure that Hawaii can continue to be a home for our local families, and for our children to be able to thrive in the future in Hawaii. So, again, thank you so much, Uncle Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So right now we're in front of Coffee Talk with Liz, the owner. And so, Liz, can you tell me a little bit about your business?
Sure. Coffee house. Been here for 25 years. Part of the neighborhood.
Yeah, so from students to local residents, they all like to come here, do their work, and relax. How has the pandemic been, and how have you been adjusting?
It's been a challenge, but I feel like luckily we have enough space inside, and the protection, the barriers make people feel safe, and we try to, just keep everyone happy.
And yeah, we noticed that the parklet was just completed.
Love it. I love it. It's so awesome. Yeah, that was such a nice bonus because a lot of people still are reluctant to come inside and sit down, and there's only so much space we have outside, so that added a few more tables.
I think Coffee Talk has been a really great example of what a small business's role is in the community and how important that is. So, I really wanted to make it a priority to, make sure that us, as legislators, as representatives, are, really working with the community, with businesses to ensure that, they could go through this pandemic and, be a bigger role in the community.
Yeah, no, and thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. I feel like, I can communicate with you and you hear me, and that's important.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So this is Wahila State Park, and obviously you can see the beautiful pines and the ironwood trees and the great breeze. And so this is one of my favorite spots in the district. It's also really close to where I grew up, so I would always come here as a kid, play around with my twin brother, and obviously chase around the chickens. But this is such a great place for the community to just come and relax, reset, especially during these times. It's kind of within the depths of a residential area. Not too many tourists know about it, but definitely during pre-pandemic, plenty of folks from Oahu came here. You got nice picnic, barbecue spots all over the place. It's just a great time for family and friends to enjoy.
And then where this reserve park sits, we have Palolo on this side, which is your district, and then Manoa on that side where I grew up.
Oh,
so
really?
I love the mountains. So tell me your favorite story about hiking.
Yeah.
These woods.
So actually, I'm going to embarrass my twin brother here. But when we were little, we were sitting on the table, and my brother, he really likes to chase around these little chicks, and so he's chasing this chick around the tree. And then eventually Mama Chicken comes around and starts chasing my brother. And so it was like this hilarious moment in where Richard's chasing the chicken and chicken's chasing Richard. So, those are the kind of memories that I have in this park. And just overall, it's a great time with the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your community.
Thank you.
I had such a wonderful time venturing out into District 20, and I want to thank Representative Sayama for sharing his district with me. Today, I'm joined by University of Hawaii President David Lassner here on Talk Story with House Majority. Welcome, David.
Aloha, thank you for having me here today.
So we're going to jump into the hot topics right away. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Mauna Kea. This week, Speaker made a few points in his opening day or post-opening day remarks about Mauna Kea. At the very end, he announced plans for a resolution to begin a new process for finding a new governance structure for the mountain. You folks put out a press release, but I just wanted to ask you here, what is your position and what is your feeling for the university with respect to this resolution that will be going through the House?
So actually, we agree that there needs to be an improved governance structure. In fact, our Board of Regents in 2019 passed a resolution asking us to take a look at possible new governance models. And we presented those to the Board of Regents in public, duly noticed meeting last year. And we identified 4 possible models, some of which did not involve UH and some of which did. We have come to the conclusion that we think it would be very difficult to move to a different model for lots of reasons. And, we'll happily talk about that with the speaker. It's probably a little too in-depth for today, but we are pursuing a new master lease and taking all of the steps necessary. It's a multi-year process. And if something else comes up that the state of Hawaii decides on a different approach, the University of Hawaii will obviously cooperate. But we think there are a lot of pitfalls, and I think, in our opinion, once the working group really digs into what it would take, they're going to encounter some of the same issues we encountered.
So really what's going to be happening then are basically parallel tracks are going to be happening. So just to get some basic information out there, in 2019, the Board of Regents adopted new administrative rules, and those were signed by the governor in January of 2020.
Correct.
And that's where we're kind of at right now. And in all of the things that have happened, there is still the process of decommissioning. Is it 2 telescopes, and UH will continue to do that work even as we go through this process?
I mean, actually, let me acknowledge the speaker did critique University of Hawaii stewardship of Mauna Kea, and we have freely acknowledged and apologized for that stewardship in the last century. I have been in this job 7.5 years or so, and certainly since 2000, I think the university really took its responsibilities very seriously in response to that pretty devastating 1998 audit, setting up the Rangers program, establishing the Office of Mauna Kea Management. 2009, we adopted a comprehensive management plan to talk about how to implement the 2000 master plan. And then most recently, we did implement the administrative rules. That's just one of the many things we're doing. So the administrative rules really lay out how some of the legal authority that we have to take steps on Mauna Kea. So we're looking at using those so we can manage access. I'm told that when snow fell last week, thousands of people went up there. So the rules will give us the tools to limit access. They'll give us the tools we need to better manage the commercial tour operators. And they will give us the ability to perhaps have our Mauna Kea Rangers have some enforcement authority, which they do not have today. But in addition to that, as you said, independent of the rules, we are working on decommissioning. So we made a commitment to decommission 5 telescopes. That was one of the conditions of the TMT Conservation District Use Permit. 2 of those decommissionings are underway right now. What most people don't realize is the process of decommissioning is almost as complicated as building a new telescope. We have to develop a plan. The plan has to be approved. We have to do environmental assessments. Then we need permits, and then we can actually start taking a telescope down. But that process involves getting approval of what site restoration looks like, with the idea of restoring each site to as much as possible what it was before the telescope was put up.
So what I'm hearing then is that even as we go through this process in the House, and we're going to do that with due diligence, which is to form a working group and make some recommendations and look at the management. But all of these things are still happening on Mauna Kea as well, as you said.
That's exactly right. At the same time, we're also updating the master plan, which is from 2000, or actually we're doing a new master plan, incorporating what we learned today. And we have a very intensive community outreach program, and that will continue. We're updating the comprehensive management plan. That describes how we manage the environmental resources, cultural resources, the archaeological monitoring, how we manage public access, and what does a decommissioning process look like. That's all underway, and that all becomes part of our process of going through a new EIS process for a new lease. It's always possible to pull the plug, but it is not possible to complete in a timely manner if we stop right now.
So for our viewers out there, just so that we get a sense of the date and the timeline, the master lease is set to expire in 2033.
Correct.
So these things are ongoing, and I think the common ground we can find is that everyone views Mauna Kea as a special sacred place, and we want to ensure that there's community engagement around that, and that these conversations and the work that can be done in parallel.
But I think the real challenge is that Mauna Kea means so many things to so many people. So for many Hawaiians, it's it is a sacred place for cultural practice. As we learned last week, the Hawaii Island community sees it as a place of recreation. Hunters see it as a place of sustenance. It has an amazing environmental characteristics that are studied and people want to understand and preserve. It's the site of, we're monitoring annually, over 100 archaeological sites that we track. We're thrilled when the Vecu bug was taken off of the endangered species list. And of course, it is the best site for astronomical observing in the Northern Hemisphere. And everybody sees a part of it. One thing I'll agree with the speaker is that when something like this is siloed and people see only their own view, this is when we have challenges. And I think the university is committed to really taking a holistic view that incorporates all these viewpoints.
Well, I don't think we're going to resolve any of the issues here in this 8-minute segment, but I do appreciate the conversation we're having, President Lassner. We were supposed to get to our second hot topic, but I do want to now cut to the little clip. I was able to join Athletic Director David Matlin at the university, so we'll go through this segment and then come back and talk with President Lassner about football. Good afternoon, AD Matlin. Can you explain to me what the Clarence T.C. Ching Complex history is?
Yeah, well, it's a great history. Actually, it started about 7-8 years ago. The Clarence T.C. Ching Foundation gave us several $1 million to build this complex really for our women athlete sports, because our soccer team, our track team, and our beach volleyball team is housed there. They have their locker rooms and offices there. So it was really a big help with some Title IX initiatives. And like I said, the Clarence T.C. Ching, that generosity is something that's helped really hundreds of student athletes so far and will continue in the future.
So during the pandemic, have student teams been practicing here?
Yeah, we started off with football, as we know. So football was practicing out here on this field as well as our practice field. Basketball's been practicing in the arena. And now, as you can see right now, this is our track team who's out there. So they just started practicing because we've just announcing a lot more spring schedules right now for the Big West.
So currently, what is the seating capacity for this?
It's about 3,500, okay. 3,585, about 3,600.
And we recently learned that Aloha Stadium isn't going to be available for football games in the near future. So what are the plans potentially to have a home field? Yeah,
since we can't have fans at Aloha Stadium, we're looking at transforming this into a great home field advantage for our team, a great opportunity for students to engage. So we're looking at adding a lot of temporary bleachers on this side, scoreboard there, and build out the press box there so we can do TV broadcasts, because there are certain criteria that we have to have for national TV broadcasts and for our Spectrum partnership. The other good thing is we're fortunate that from the legislature a few sessions ago, we already got the funds for a new turf, and that was going in this year already. And frankly, that's probably the most important thing because the safety of the turf is a criteria that you have to play collegiate NCAA football. So that will happen also.
So this complex currently sits 3,500. What is the number of capacity that you're looking to increase to?
You know, we want to get to at least, we're looking at 10,000. If we could do a little more than that, that would be great. But that's the number we're kind of targeting. And we've got some different plans about how we'd structure it. And actually, every day we're getting different schematics, and you know, we're kind of moving fast. So I would say 10,000 is about the number is our goal.
So in terms of moving fast and timeline, what is your timeline for this potential?
Well, our first game's September 4th, so you have to back it up till then. The turf we would expect being done a month before that at the latest. That's obviously the critical. And it's really, we're just making milestones for each different area. You know, everything pretty much you want done about a month before so you can troubleshoot. Mm-hmm. But the big things that need to be done are the turf, the press box area, the seating, and then the scoreboard information systems, which include the time clocks also. And then you have to have connectivity for instant replay, as well as your coaches' communication systems. So all these things can be done, but we just got to move every day.
Sure. So this is a pretty complex project, short time span, but there's a lot of excitement around it. So can you talk to me a little bit about how are the students? Are they excited about this?
Yeah, you know, we're getting a lot of great feedback on it. What's neat about it is we'll totally be able to control, you know, what we do here. I mean, we've got ideas about students running on the field at the beginning. I think I've mentioned that to you before. You know, we got that beach area over there. That could be a pretty cool standing room area right there for beach volleyball, as long as they're not playing. But I just think it's a great time. The students can just walk down from the dorms. I think it's there is something special about playing on campus, and we're excited about that opportunity. Even Coach Graham's got some great ideas about the way they can do a walk around campus before the game. Obviously, you know, they won't have to, you know, travel to Aloha Stadium, which, you know, and Aloha Stadium, that was a great venue for us for a lot of years, and we're looking forward to the new stadium being built also. But I just think there's a lot of opportunities here to do creative, fun things, and just kind of control the atmosphere and get the students engaged with our student athletes.
Well, I'm very excited about the plans, and I know that the UH team has done a lot of work to think about this and to think outside of the box. I know it still has to go through the legislative process, but I'm excited. So thank you for sharing this with us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Aloha.
Aloha.
So playing UH football at UH is an exciting prospect. And I'll just start off with this question, President Lassner. What excites you most about the prospect of on-campus football games?
I'll just say two things. One is we're really excited about the opportunity to re-engage our entire student body and our faculty and staff with an easy opportunity to participate and enjoy UH football. But we're also excited about the many other things we think we can do as we look at the improvements we have to make for football and how we can use them in many other ways to serve students. You know, like having movie nights, using the scoreboard to show movies in the evenings with students gathered on the field and in the bleachers. The second thing I want to say is just, I want to give just a world of credit to Athletics Director Matlin and his team. You know, it was really, it was quite a lemon to be told in December that we would not be able to play football with fans at Aloha Stadium for our 2021 season. And they have really worked to turn that lemon into lemonade. And I'm thrilled at the increasing enthusiasm and positivity with which they're approaching an extraordinarily difficult and challenging task.
So I would echo that. I think the visit by the Higher Education and Technology Committee to UH really kind of opened my eyes. And so it was really wonderful to be talking with Athletic Director Matlin. I don't want to waste this precious time with you. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of UH's top priorities for this legislative session?
You know, this is the first time, I believe, in our history we have not asked for money, recognizing the economic condition of the state. We have a number of bills in place. I'll just mention two of the things that some of them are you know, pretty technical in housekeeping. One of them is to remove the sunset on some of the authority that we were given around tech transfer and economic development. We think that's really important now, and two new authorities that we were given expire, and we'd like that sunset date removed. The second one is we're asking for increasing authority over how we develop our campus properties. Some of the things we're trying to do potentially this football project, and it's an idea that we got from the island of Kauai, actually, around creating a university district land category. And I think that was heard today by Rep. Takayama. What we're really focused on is the priorities for what we think we need to do to move the state forward. And we've identified 4 of them. I'll just briefly summarize them. And then if you want to ask me questions about each of them. The first is really around educating more of Hawaii's citizenry. The post-secondary education, whether it's an associate degree, bachelor's degree, even an industry certificate, is the most powerful enabler of social and economic mobility that we know, across the country. And especially with the class of high school graduating class of 2020, 2021, they've had a really hard time in high school, and we need to make sure we get them, more adults, more unemployed people, back into post-secondary education so they can succeed. Second priority is to focus on some of the specific workforce area where Hawaii needs help. And I'll just highlight 2: teachers, and more teachers. And there are specific shortage areas, but we need to educate more of our own teachers in Hawaii with people who are from Hawaii and from the communities where they'll serve. The second area I'll mention is healthcare and social welfare. We need to address those shortages: doctors, nurses, allied health professions, social workers, psychologists. We're looking at physical therapists. We need more of those people to help keep our aging population, like my gray hair, healthy as we age. The third of 4 areas is work on new economic sectors, and we've identified a few of them. We think our responsibility is to help kickstart some of those with the intellect of our faculty and staff, and at the same time educate students for good jobs in these areas. Those would be computer science and engineering, creative media industries. We've got an exciting new building just opened at West Oahu. Climate change, energy, disaster resilience, conservation. These are high quality green jobs where Hawaii has incredible expertise. We need to take care of ourselves, and these can also be export expertise. Food, agriculture, aquaculture, these are important both for food sustainability, but also as export crops, and a new form of sustainable tourism that creates more high quality jobs that engage tourists with the people of Hawaii. The last of the 4 areas is our own research enterprise. Last year, the University of Hawaii brought in over $450 million in extramural funding. That's actually bigger than our agriculture sector in the state today. So it itself is an important sector, and we need to continue to do well in our areas of strength. The obvious one, ocean, earth, and atmospheric science. Yes, astronomy is one of our powerhouses. Our study of Asia and the Pacific, climate change, the areas I mentioned. But we also have identified the areas where we think we can bring in more money. That $450 million is already growing, and we think we can do better in health sciences, agriculture, aquaculture, and we think the Pacific itself is an area of investment for the United States. So as we do that, we also want to increase the community impacts, startups, and jobs, which is where those bills will come in helpful.
So what I've heard from your priorities, and actually what really resonates with me, is how the university can be a good pathway for living wage jobs when we talk about and meet the needs of our community. So it's really a good pathway. Yeah. How do the community colleges fit into all of this? You touched upon it a little bit, but sometimes we forget UH is a system with community colleges.
The community colleges are amazing. So they do a few things. One is they're open door. So anyone can go in and enter a community college. They will meet you where you are and try to take you where you want to be. They provide a great liberal arts education, and that can provide a transfer pathway into a 4-year degree for those who want it. And they provide some amazing specific technical and vocational training. Now we use the term career and technical education. So specific training, degrees, and certificates for, as you said, living wage jobs. So they're a critical part of our community, and they actively engage with our Hawaii P20 Partners for Education program, and they're really the front line of the work we're doing to reach the really challenged high school classes of 2020 and 2021.
So I have you here, and before I bring on Representative Takayama, I'd like to ask you, when does university expect to have students back on campus full time, given this pandemic?
Well, we're not taking for granted that the social distancing requirements will be gone by fall 2021. We are planning to continue with a mix of online, but we hope to have all of our classrooms utilized in fall 2021. We hope to have all of our faculty and staff vaccinated, and hopefully most of our students will be vaccinated, if not at home here in Hawaii, where they come from, but if not, we'll try to be working to find a way to pick up. But we expect to have a healthy mix of both online and in-person education in the fall. If the social distancing guidelines are removed, then we can be even more dense on campus, but we don't want to presume that right now.
I think public health and public safety is most important. And our college kids are probably doing a little bit better at distance learning than our younger kids.
And I'll say our faculty as well. I can't say enough about the transition our faculty made first last spring and then this fall continuing into this academic year. They've been amazing. Our staff have been great at supporting them as well. And our students have been really resilient. Our enrollment is actually up at UH Manoa. So students are embracing this, and we had a pretty robust distance and online learning program already. So we were a little better equipped, I think, to make the fast pivot. We had to invest in technology upgrades, but we weren't starting a whole lot of new technology. We just had to upgrade it, and fortunately, we were able to use our CARES money to do so.
So I'd like to bring on Chair Gregg Takayama now, so that we can have a little bit of interchange between President Lassner and Chair.
Aloha, Chair. Good to see you again.
Good afternoon, Della, and good afternoon, President Lassner. Nice to be here.
So I'm really excited. Chair Takayama, did you want to ask a question of President Lassner or comment on anything that he might have said while you were listening?
Well, yeah, you've had a great discussion, and just to add to my recognition that President Lassner has a tough job. I mean, we're talking about a university system that is responsible for educating 50,000 students across 10 campuses spread across our Hawaiian Islands. And you've managed to do that with combining in-person classes and research labs with online instruction. And that's perhaps a model for our K through 12 DOE to follow. But you've been able to do it without problems in terms of coronavirus infections, and managed to do it by working closely with the students and faculty and staff. So my credit goes to President Lassner for managing to do this.
Well, it's an amazing team, and it's not just one person. I'll just say our ability to manage COVID-19. We've had. I look at the numbers. We're very transparent. We've had about when I looked earlier this week, we had 85 cases since April across all 10 campuses. We're pretty proud of that. People in our student residence halls, we made the decision early on to keep our residence halls open because some of our students had nowhere to go home to that would have been safer. And we took on those risks knowingly, and that team has also done a remarkable job in keeping the students safe with quarantining practices, helping with contact tracing and so forth. It's, I'm really proud of what everyone here has done. It takes a village, as they say.
Well, now your next challenge and your village's challenge will be to manage to maintain your instructional load while also managing $75 million in budget cuts, which is what the governor has asked of the UH and your $500 million annual budget. So we're
hopeful that the legislature legislature will treat us a little bit more kindly than that governor's budget. And I know he's already revising his financial plan as well. So we will look to see what he presents to you, based on the improvements in the Council on Revenues projections, as well as, we got the second stimulus bill through, which was not in place when he did his first financial plan. And now it looks like there will be a third stimulus bill. All of those things can help both the state and the university.
Well, I do have to
So all of
credit
these,
the UH. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say I need to credit the UH for already beginning the process of working with students and faculty and deans on looking for ways to reduce costs, and at the same time maybe strengthening the university. For example, your Asian language program, you have 12 instructors in Japanese, 1 instructor in Chinese, but the student demand is the opposite, right? Because of the recent years' interest in China. So I think this process allows you to maybe adjust and strengthen the university.
That's right. We started this as both a budget cutting exercise and a strengthening exercise. And I should say, we're not expecting a cut of 0, but we're hoping it is, somewhere between 0, which was the Board of Regents request, and the governor's initial reduction.
Right.
well, David, I want to thank you for joining us here today. I really, really enjoyed speaking with you about UH. As always, UH plays such a large role in our communities, and it's certainly going to be part of our legislative process this year. I wish you all the best for the duration of the spring semester. I wish all the best for the students and for their health and well-being. And we will continue our conversations with you, David. I want to now turn to a second community spotlight to share with everyone here. For this one, I am joined by Representative Adrian Tam, who represents Waikiki and Ala Moana. He shows me around and we talk about how his district functions not only as a tourist hotspot, but also a home for thousands of Hawaii residents.
Representative Tam, tell me about the Eggs and Things and how this is significant to your district.
Yes, Eggs and Things was founded in my district. The first one opened on Saratoga, the next one on Kalakaua, and this one is near Ala Moana by Pi'ikoi. They recently expanded outside of the district to Ko'olina, which is really cool. So I'm really happy that things in Waikiki are spreading out to other areas of the island. So what we just ate was a fruit rainbow pancake, which is one of their more well-known dishes at Eggs and Things. It was really good, right?
It was totally yummy. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Eggs and Things used to open at night. And late nights we would come here with a bunch of my friends if everything else is closed or we just didn't have anything. And it's always worth it because I love breakfast food at night.
Yeah.
And they only use local eggs here.
So it's a business that really supports the local economy and is great for local residents, right?
Yes, it is.
So Representative Tam, tell me the significance of this corner.
So this corner is the corner of my district. So the border goes straight down here and turns right down there. So what you see in the back of us is District 26, which is Speaker Psyche's district.
And this, where we're looking at right now, is what's the significance of this spot?
So this spot is a lot where we just had breakfast at Eggs and Things, but this is going to be built for affordable housing. There's a proposal on right now for it, and the rail line is supposed to go down this road. It's going to be the end stop in my rail. It's going to stop right in my district, right here.
So, do you think, what's the feeling in your district about rail coming?
It's definitely a mixed bag. There are some people who express concern about the rail and its environmental impacts. There's some people who think that it's too costly, and there are others who are really excited about the rail because if you look at my district, not many people own cars in my district because everything's so dense and close together. And when they do have to make trips outside of the district to Kapolei or Ewa, they need to either take an Uber or a bus or a Lyft. And so it's definitely a mixed bag.
So it's going to be just an option, and then it's going to be still a little while before the rail station comes in. But that's really fascinating that this particular corner is going to have more development. Right?
Yep.
And it's going to be affordable housing, like you mentioned.
Yep. Ala Moana Park is the people's park. They have beach volleyball courts, It's a great place to jog. There's a nice place for people to swim and fish. They have tennis courts. I'm a big fan of tennis, so I would always go and play here. And that's how I meet a lot of my constituents as well, because they too like playing tennis. So right over there is the Alawai Boat Harbor. So you have Waikiki Yacht Club. Right in front of the Print Hotel is the boat harbor itself. So Waikiki is two roads, as I call it. One is called Kuhio and one is called Kalakaua. Kuhio is more of the neighborhood. Kalakaua is more of the businesses and where the tourists go and all the hotels are. So this is Waikiki Beach. It's one of the favorites among locals and tourists. People go out there paddleboarding, swimming, surfing. We are now entering the corner of my district. So this is the end of my district right here.
So thank you for taking us on that drive, Representative Tam. Can you tell me what's the significance of this part of your district?
So in this area of my district, this is the border. And across the border, you see the Waikiki Grand Hotel, which is home to Hula's Bar and Lay Stand, or simply known as Hula's, one of the oldest LGBTQ plus bars in the entire state. And it's well known around the entire world. So many people fly to Hawaii for Pride, and they would go to Hula's Bar and Lay Stand afterwards for drinks and to socialize. A lot of people think that Waikiki is just a tourist trap, but in actuality, it's a neighborhood. We have a lot of residents living on that side by the Alawai. And if you go further down, you go to Holborn Lane, which is a neighborhood in itself. There is only one hotel there, I think. And you have all these other condominiums that are around that area.
So there's a real balance between what the residents need and what the tourists need, and then you're always trying to strike that balance.
You want to make sure that your district looks nice for everyone, right? And whether that's, fixing our roads or making sure that, it's safer for people to walk at night, is trying to make sure that, this area is taken care of and that everyone's comfortable and being able to live here.
So as you head into your first term as the legislator for Waikiki, any kind of opening comments you want to make or share with our viewers?
Yes, it is an honor to be able to represent such a unique, diverse district. I tell people that I'm really proud of my district for a lot of things, but what I'm most proud about is its diversity. We have retirees, kupuna, we have business owners, and we have, up-and-coming young professionals and college students living in our district. So it's a really mixed bag of individuals living in this district.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your district with me, Representative Tam.
Thank you so much, Rep. Bellotti.
Thank you, Representative Adrian Tam, for sharing your district with me. And welcome back to Representative Gregg Takayama. Thank you so much for joining me. Representative Takayama is a veteran lawmaker who has overseen tough issues such as the oversight of prisons, emergency management, and disasters. He was recently tapped to serve as chair of the Higher Education and Technology Committee, and he will now be overseeing a whole new portfolio of issues that directly intersect with all of the priorities President Lassner just talked about. And I am very, very lucky to be able to serve on Chair Takayama's committee. Chair Takayama, I wanted to get your thoughts on UH efforts to adjust to budget cuts.
Yeah, that's a good question, Della, and a really timely one, because just like every other state agency and department, I think the UH has a responsibility to find ways to reduce the cost of its operation. And, pretty confident that it could be done so in a way that doesn't really weaken the basic academic and research strengths of the university. For example, we have a terrific theater and dance program that offers degrees from bachelor's to master's to PhDs. We actually offer 8 different PhDs in theater and dance, but we only have several dozen students enrolled in the graduate program. So there has to be ways of reducing the variety of offerings on the academic side, while at the same time, maintaining our strength. And I think another example is on the administrative side. President Lassner has, for the past 2 years, I believe, served as both UH president for the UH system and also chancellor for the Manoa campus. And that alone has saved more than $3 million. And so it seems to me that there are a whole slew of vice presidents who overlap functions with vice chancellors on the Manoa campus, for example, in research, in facilities and budget. So if we can apply that same consolidation to that, I think that alone could save multi-millions of dollars in the years ahead. So we need to look for ways, and I think the administration can set a good example for cuts that will have to be imposed on students and faculty.
I think that actually really flows into one of the themes for the majority, which is how across government, all parts of government, can we consolidate and really think about ways in which we do government better and smarter. And it may mean doing more with less people, but where can we find those efficiencies is what I'm hearing from you.
And another thing to think about is the fact that on Oahu alone, we have 6 community colleges. 6 community colleges that range from more than 9,000 students at Kapiolani Community College to a little over 1,000, at some of our smaller community colleges, and that's smaller than our medium-sized high schools. But each community college has its own structure of chancellors, vice chancellors, administrative staff. So it seems to me that given what we can do remotely, that we can consolidate a lot of those administrative and fiscal functions and at the same time be efficient. So I think that's something that the UH needs to look at.
And I think it's that discipline. And again, I think it's a discipline that we're asking all of our agencies to apply. So even though these are tough budget times, as a new chair, what is it that's exciting for you in this new area? What are some of your priorities other than making sure that government UH is more efficient?
Well, Della, you've attended the UH Law School. I graduated from UH and actually met my wife in the journalism program at Manoa. And so there's a lot of fondness in terms of our respect for the University of Hawaii system. But I am looking for ways for the UH to adjust to our future needs, those of our children. And an important part of that is what President Lassner alluded to earlier, and that's the UH's ability to adjust to future workforce needs. We need more nurses, we need more teachers, we need more IT professionals instead of bringing all of those specialists from the mainland. And at the same time, we need to train our construction trades workers, and our community college programs need to do play an important role in that. There are 50,000 UH students, and about half of them are community college students, and we tend to overlook them, but they're a really important part of our fundamental training of our workforce, as well as providing the first 2 years of undergraduate instruction for students who can transfer to the 4-year campuses at Manoa, West Oahu, and Hilo.
I have to agree with you on that. And that was is and has been a passion of mine with being the health chair formerly. How do we make sure that we meet our needs? And those are high paying jobs. So to the degree that we can make sure that there's alignment between what our needs are and what the university is providing, I think that's right on. I was super appreciative that I think it was the very first week of session you had your committee going out to UH. It was either the first or the second week of session. And so I really appreciate that as a member. We're not stuck in the Capitol, that we go out and we see the places and the people we're affecting. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the future plans for the TC Ching Athletic Complex.
Well, first of all, I credit the UH and athletics director, Dave Matlin, for thinking out of the box. And they're being displaced from the Aloha Stadium to finding ways to bring it home to the UH Manoa campus in a ways that's cost effective. The reality, though, is that we have to face the fact that come September, when our first UH home game is, we may not have everything in place, and we may need to look at the reality of playing a game at Ching Field. It already has 3,500 seats in the current configuration. They're asking to fund seats for about 7,000 more spectators. Given the COVID reality, I'm not sure that such a large crowd can be accommodated in a safe way. So we may need to look at, doing with what we have at Ching Field in terms of spectator seating, maybe expanding the press box to enable, national television to be there. But there has to be economical ways of doing it, and maybe seriously looking at playing a game or two on Maui. The Maui War Memorial Stadium can accommodate 20,000 spectators and doesn't require major renovations. It requires some. But, the UH football team is a football team for the state of Hawaii, not just Manoa or Oahu. So we need to, I think, examine seriously the idea of having our football team play at least one game on Maui.
So this is what I appreciate about you, Chair. You're always thinking about the different possibilities, and I hadn't even comprehended that. I mean, so much of what's going to mean for the football season to proceed will also require us to make sure we get the waivers from the NCAA, if it's going to be safe enough for COVID. I mean, there's so many challenges, like you pointed out.
We also need to look at the possibility. It's unclear how possible it is for UH Stadium to be rendered playable for at least 10,000 spectators, and that is spectators on the lower level of Aloha Stadium. Mm-hmm. How much does it cost to make the stadium safe for that? Is it more than $4 million? Is it more than $6 million? And we need to look at that possibility as well, and we cannot rule that out.
So this idea has a long way to go in the legislative session for more months, but at the same time, UH is feeling the crunch. So they kind of have to operate in both directions.
Yeah, I think at this point, we need to consider all possibilities. Credit UH for proceeding on its path, because what it plans to do is make whatever improvements they have at Ching Field a permanent feature of the Manoa campus. And, that's appealing in itself. For those of us veteran old-timers who remember the old Aloha Stadium, just a couple blocks from where the Manoa campus is, that stadium accommodated 25,000 people and had no parking, but it was kind of a community-based stadium as opposed to Aloha Stadium, which is sort of in the middle of a highway. So there's a lot of appeal to having a home-based football season at Manoa.
I'll agree. I think when we did the tour, I kind of got that feeling like, wow, this would be really cool for fans. So we only have a few more minutes with you, Chair, and I just wanted to give you some closing comments. What do you want to tell your viewers out there as we go into really the first quarter of the legislative session?
Well, I think that our message is to young people, those in high school and maybe even younger, that when they plan their futures, take UH into consideration, because I know a great deal of our high school graduates plan to go to the mainland, and that's fine, but they shouldn't rule out the possibility of going staying home because Manoa, for example, is one of the top research universities in the country. It's in the top 111 state research universities in the nation. And so you're not losing out on anything by staying home, going to a 4-year campus at Hilo, at West Oahu, which, by the way, has just unveiled a beautiful media center, which is a state-of-the-art one, thanks to Chris Lee. And so you're not losing anything by staying at home, going to Manoa, going to Leeward, West Oahu, or going to Hilo. And so consider that when you consider your future plans, because we'd love to have students stay home, get their education here, and stay here to work. And that's where the university needs to adjust to our future workforce needs. So thank you, Majority Leader Belatti, for making me a part of your program. Enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Chair Takayama. I really appreciate you. And thank you to President Lassner and Athletic Director Matlin for joining me on this program, as well as Representatives Representatives Sayama and Tam for sharing their districts with me. So as you can tell, we have lots and lots going on here at the Capitol. As we close, I wanted to share with everyone just a little bit of data on how our virtual hearings are going at the Capitol. Even with the challenges of technology, the House this week in 4 days conducted 35 hearings, 4 of which were joint hearings, conducted 1 decision-making hearing only, heard 290 bills, processed 3,433 testifiers, of whom 749 requested to testify and participate remotely by Zoom. There's a lot going on here, and we want to invite you to join us here at the State Capitol remotely and testify on all the bills coming before the House. If you enjoyed this segment of Talk Story, or if you have an issue or story you'd like me to dive into for a future episode, please email me at repbelatti@capitol.hawaii.gov with your questions. Please follow the House Majority on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at High House Dems for the most current news, events, and updates from the State House. You can also visit our website at hawaiihousedemocrats.com, which has resources, news stories, and valuable information about the House Majority and the 2021 legislative session. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay informed. We'll see you next Friday, or the next Friday, February 19th, when we return with Talk Story with House Majority. Aloha.